Hey everyone, this is Corine La Font, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know how we do it here on Between the Lines. Always thankful, always living a life of gratitude. We're above ground people. We're in the middle of December, 2 more weeks to go to end the year, and next week is the Christmas holidays. So I hope you're preparing for those of you who celebrate in whatever way or form. I am going to be there celebrating with you. And I have with me Carla McKirdy. And today we're talking about conveying complex ideas to a global audience. And you'll understand why we have that topic. But before we do that, let me tell you a bit about Carla. So Carla is an Argentine-American globetrotter. I mean, with a passion for communication, Carla has thrived in the field, seamlessly transitioning among various roles. She's honed her skills in conveying complex ideas to audience we have, while working for some of the world's leading organizations, including the United Nations. Welcome.
Hi,
We're having
Corine.
a little
Thank
bit
you
of
so much. Yeah,
a delay
yes.
here, internet
Hello. Okay.
lag. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, Corine. Thank you so much for having me. Apologies if I'm speaking over you. I didn't mean to do so, but hey, it's a great way to launch the topic of communication, since this is one of the biggest
Right.
challenges we have of working all around the world with different types of internet connection. So, hey, this is perfect.
Thank you so much for understanding. There are some persons who may not be as understanding and expect me to control the Wi-Fi, the World Wide Web. I have no control over that, people. Thank you so much, Carla. And I see people are watching us, I think. Let me just do a quick check here. On YouTube, I think it is. Let me just verify. Yes, on Facebook, sorry. Thank you so much for watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, wherever you are. We appreciate you spending your Sunday with 30 minutes at least with us today. If you have any questions or comments, anything for Carla or me, please feel free to ask, and it's going to be highlighted right here below on the screen. Don't be shy. I know you guys are shy. Don't be shy. Yes, this is your moment of fame as well. It's not just me and Carla. You can get your moment of fame. So Carla, complex ideas to a global audience. And why are we talking about that? You are working at the UN. Everybody hears about the UN, the United Nations. I would love to be a part of this thing. Give us a kind of snapshot, if you can, of what life is like working for the UN in communications and traveling the world.
Sure, why not? It's actually quite complex itself also, but it has its ups and its downs. I think one of the greatest opportunities you have is obviously the travel to learn more about intercultural communication, which is so vital in our world today. And actually, if you really look at what's going on in the world, if you look at the news, most of the struggles that are happening at the global stage start from lack of intercultural communication, right? Or not lack of it. There might be attempts, but maybe just they're not being done at the using all the skills that we as communicators have acquired already, which is, as we discussed before, active listening, among others. And yeah, I think that this has given at least me and my fellow former colleagues, by the way, because I'm currently on a break, like this amazing experience. And also amongst each other, amongst us communicators, we also network very strongly to try to stay on top of all the latest techniques and different approaches that we can try to use to foster this type of communication, to support our teams wherever we are in the world. And this year alone, I was in, started in Jordan, then Yemen, then Chad. So a little bit all over the world, obviously in some difficult areas, right, where there's some ongoing conflict. And it's
Aren't
been
you scared?
incredible. Yeah.
Aren't you scared? Let's be honest, you're human. Aren't you scared?
Yes, of course, I think at some point or another, but it's very fortunate that when you work within the UN environment, you do have a very good security procedures also in place to protect you and your colleagues, and also everybody at the local level who works with you, who supports the mission and the different goals that we're trying to implement.
Mm-hmm. Public Information Officer, that's your current role right now, isn't that so?
Yes, well, I mean, as I said, I'm on a bit of a break, but yes, this is the official title within the UN. It's called Public Information Officer, and which translated to our average day-to-day life, it would just be communications expert or lead communications manager, as you would like to convey it, right? But this is basically all that we do. Support different teams. In my case this year, as I said, from just this one example, between Jordan, Yemen, and Chad, I was working with humanitarian affairs, political affairs, different aspects of the UN work. And my job would be to go in there and support the teams in leading their communications efforts and implementing efficient communication strategies, and working with our local colleagues too, who are experts at the local level on communicating within their own communities, because we need that knowledge so much to ensure that all the different counterparts that we're working with from the side of the are clear about what the mission is, what the goals are, and how they can support it if they decide to do so.
I love how you said that, and that points us right back to what we are talking, complex ideas to a global audience. How do you, in talking to so many different people, so many different cultures, so many different languages, so many different locations, so many different sociological training, how they were socialized as a child? How? Because I'm thinking to myself, you're in the UN, it's like the world in a cup, the world in a cup. And you are transitioning and navigating that landscape of communication, right? How are you doing that? Because if in a little microcosm of a workplace where the same people who grew up in the same country speaking the same language are having a difficult time just to communicate, and you are in this World Cup of people, why is it so difficult for people who share the same culture, share the same language, probably went to school together, know each other's parents, had the same training coming up as a child, having such a hard time when you are in the UN and having to navigate complex ideas to a global audience? Tell me what's happening there, Carla.
Yeah, well, I think that this is a strength that we have within the UN, but then one that can be replicated by any communications expert out there who would like to do so, which is basically the fact that the United Nations was founded on a very specific document, a declaration that also outlined the basic human rights that we all agree to uphold and support and enshrined within our own constitutions. So if we look at this document, we refer back to it at any time, we can find a shared values that every single country around the world has ratified, and that is why they all also have a seat at the UN. So it's about always kind of taking it back there. It's like, yes, but remember this official document
Yes,
that we
what?
all agreed on. Remember this one that everybody has signed and agreed to uphold. And obviously it has its nuances. Some countries decide to be flexible, some others do not. They're quite strongly adhering to it. However, if we take all the conversations back to this, I think that it's much easier to kind of rely on our shared humanity to try to engage and communicate with each other. We are no longer, I don't know, somebody from Haiti and somebody from Cambodia that are trying to have a conversation. We are actually all fall within the spectrum of the work of the UN, and we all adhere and share common values. And so we need to remember them in an effort to try to engage with each other. So this is also where sometimes the challenges arise, right? Because we forget that we all have this shared humanity, right? That we all have adhered to the same principles and standards and uphold, or we want to uphold them. And sometimes we just forget that they're there. And this is when maybe miscommunications and conflict eventually starts. So the thing is,
you're saying a lot of things, Carla. You're saying a lot of things, and I'm sure you're seeing my facial reaction. Listen, shared humanity. Shared humanity that exists only at the UN. I believe the UN needs to formulate or buy some land where I could move to. Because even within my own country, my own community, workspace, it is not happening. And you use the word yes, but, and forget. No, I don't know if people forget, Carla. They conveniently forget. And there is a power, I don't know where they get it from, or why they assume that power and authority over themselves, that they are more than, better than, as opposed to focusing on the common objective, the goal that is more than you. This is not about you, Carla, or you, Corine, or you, the audience. This is about humanity, bettering the world. So yes, we recognize where you come from. Yes, we recognize, but as you mentioned, we're not even seeing race. We're not even seeing color. We're not even seeing where you're from, because that doesn't matter. We are humans. And I am like, we're in communications here, Carla. That's our industry. Why is it that we cannot see that at a smaller level? When is this smaller level, like you mentioned, giving a bit of history that led to the UN being formed? You know, is it that they saw the need because of the infighting of our own, that they decide, no, we need to separate and show people there's a possibility that proper communications can exist? Why? You mentioned that what they do at the UN can be replicated, but people are not. There's a total separation. And I am like, why can't, when you use it for, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we all just get along? Help me, Carla.
Yeah, I mean, this is also right. Like these same values are usually reflected in our own documents, wherever nation we're from. Usually in our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, whatever documents we have, founding documents. These same values are usually reflected. But so one thing to note is that the UN doesn't have any power to enforce anything. It's just a place where people can gather and discuss ideas in a safe space and environment. One that is provided for this. So nobody can go and enforce from the UN and say, you are not doing this right. So we're going to do, we cannot go to a country if we're not invited by the government itself. So what does that mean? That everything starts
Carla,
with
I'm
us,
moving over.
actually.
Carla, let me cut you. I'm moving over. Carla, where is the land that UN have bought? I am ready to pack my bags and move over. What you're saying. No. This is the crux of communication, that people feel, I tell you, they assume power and authority, that they could tell you what to do, when, how, why, and how frequently. But the UN, I thought the UN was the group that could do that. I am shocked to hear that.
No, it's a stage where all the countries can gather and have an equal say and an equal, a discussion at the same level, right, with their neighbors. So, I mean, this can vary into several aspects of the UN that I don't want to delve into now. Let's focus just on the communication thing. But yes. People forget, because you see a lot of comments online. People are like, why isn't the UN doing anything? It's because the UN cannot do anything unless a country invites the UN to please do this. So this is the main challenge that we face right now. So it really starts with us as residents of our own home country and who we vote into power, because these people are the ones that are going to decide if there's a crisis, if there's a war. Will we invite the UN to come and support us, to help us with like bringing in food, or countering crime? These things, if the people in the government do not ask the UN to do so, they cannot be done, and we cannot force it from the outside in.
You use a word, invited. Now that's a simple word. We use it every day. I mean, it's coming to Christmas. We invite people over. If I don't invite you over, you should not force yourself into my house. What are you doing here? You were not invited to the party. And invitation in communications is very important, Carla. Very important. If me and you having a conversation and somebody just come in and decide they should be part of that, they were not invited. It's not that we might not welcome them, depending on what, but they should be able to see that a conversation is happening here, and it is to just leave it alone. And then you find a particular opportunity that you may want, the person may want to speak with us, whether individually or as a group. But invitation, and we're talking complex ideas. Let's come back to even weaving that in. You're discussing something that could impact the world, or a particular country, or different people in a country, okay? And you are traveling 5 continents. How do you deal with that invitation, that person who feel that they need to be heard? I need to get my thoughts, my ideas. You need to do it this way in the conversation. How do you deal with that, as opposed to not trying to make the person or the country, and when I say person, it could be the country, feel left out or misunderstood or not heard at all?
And this actually makes me think of a very simple, I don't know if you ever studied theater or stand-up, improv. One of the most common ways of learning how to work on an improv skit is saying yes and. So you come to me and you want to be part of the conversation you were not invited to. Then in my role, I would be like, yes, and let's invite this other counterpart then. Yes, and never deny, never reject, but always welcome the input, but also try to gear everything back to the fact that this should be an even platform where everybody has a say. The UN cannot make any decision, but it can gather the counterparts that are having maybe some sort of conflict or misunderstanding, to try to provide the space to mediate, to let both parties speak to their heart's desire, and let them come up with a solution. So you can provide the space, you can provide the support, you can provide maybe some talking points, but it should be coming from them, from the different stakeholders, be it 2 nations or be it 2 ethnic groups or be it whatever, because we work with everything from intercommunity conflict at the very local level to obviously what is going on now at the global level, right? Different nations at war. So it's about that, bringing people together. And it sounds nice, but like, Christmas dinner, how it goes with the family, always. It's nice. It's a nice occasion to bring people together, but there's always something, right?
I love your 2 phrases. I'm going to be using that going forward from today, after this episode, straight through my life. Yes, but yes, and.
But always yes. It's always a welcome invitation. But of course.
Yes, but yes. I am definitely used to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And reminding everybody of our shared humanity, right? We're all here to have a say. And I mean, we can also talk about communications as a woman in certain environments too. I've been in very conservative working environments at some point.
Yes.
Interacting with people who are not used to interacting with a woman as an equal. So how do you manage that? Well, first of all, I mean, it's an honor to be sometimes the first woman they've ever interacted with at a level of an equal in some sort of professional role. So hence you need to make an extremely good impression, so they'll be more willing and open to continue to do so in the future. But that also brings me back to how we communicate, and specifically, well, I mean, because we were also discussing the smaller scale, and like what happens, why does communication get so polluted sometimes? And to me, it's like we all have these underlying values that we do adhere to, that we believe in or we want to believe in, but then we have layers of socialization that have been, depending how we're raised, where we're from, sometimes it's religious in nature. All these different layers have been socialized into us, and sometimes it's hard for us to see beyond them and to keep that open mind that we need to really communicate from the heart. And so our job as communicators is sometimes to help people find that space. And
you spend the time helping people to come to a particular place as opposed to the job you are there to do. So you take the time to do that, to bring them to that space. My word. So what you're saying, Carla, is our role. Let me tell you something. I used to be a teacher, and I still find myself being a teacher in the classroom, and people still see me as a teacher. When they hear me speak, they say, you used to teach, or you're a teacher. So I just say yes. I just say yes from now, I just stop saying no and explaining myself and just say yes. And when you're a teacher, Carla, you're not a teacher. Yes, you're standing in front of students or children and you teach. You're a mother, you're the funder, you're a psychologist, the guidance counselor, you're the policewoman or man. So when I hear communications, and I mean, this is now coming to me that I talk to you, you're revealing this to me. I have actually translated being a teacher into communication and taking on the role of trying to be a therapist and help people to understand communication and to sort of put their socialized background and what they were taught religiously or whatever else in the background a bit and have an open mind, be open to hearing other people. So it's like managing a classroom where other children might be bullies, or some might want to interrupt a student, and you're trying to hear everybody because you want to give everybody a voice. You have actually, in this conversation, revealed that to me. I thank you, Carla. I thank you, Carla. I have actually transitioned. I may have changed role titles, position titles, but I am still the teacher managing the classroom, because that's what you're doing. You are in 5 continents traveling, trying to get all these various people to understand one thing, and for them to hear it, like you talk, active listening, being open-minded. You're trying to navigate that and weave that web so that it's seamless at the end. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's actually, as you were speaking, it made me think of, because as a teacher, then you must also be aware. And for me, these skills are so transferable, like communications, active listening. I also think sometimes about teaching as the same type of role, because sometimes at the global stage, even, you're engaging with people who are quite literally like, in one way or another, like throwing a tantrum, like a child, So what does a child need when they're in that situation? They don't really need to be maybe told off. They need to be heard and maybe reassured a bit, and then you can maybe guide the conversation somewhere else, or the comprehension to another space. But first, they need to come out of that a very tense, emotional space. Right. Yeah. And there you go. I mean, you've been a teacher. You must know exactly how to do these types of things with tiny humans.
I never made the connection. It's just in listening to you. I'm like, wait a minute. It took me back to teaching. It's like the UN is like a classroom. The work that we do in communications is like a classroom. You have children or young people or whatever, and even adults sitting in a classroom, all in a particular seat. They're representing their own ideas, values, their own ideology, whatever it may be. And they come with that and they're facing you, and you are now trying to permeate a message or get them to do a particular thing in a particular way. Just imagine that communications is the classroom, and you're hoping that they leave with an intention to take action, to do what is necessary for the benefit of all of them in the class. This is amazing, Carla. I never listen when I do my show. I never think that somebody's going is going to be the other way around. You are actually helping me here. Thank you so much. So when we talk of complex ideas to a global audience, it actually starts even from the home, trying to help your children to see a particular way and engage a particular, because they have a mind of their own. You have your own as a parent, and you're navigating these siblings. Then it comes again in the classroom where the teacher is taking on that. So we actually have the UN in various small microcosmic parts in the world. The only thing is, from what I heard you share before, is the shared humanity. That is what we are missing. You know, that humanity, that we are all humans, blood runs through our veins. It doesn't matter where you come from or what, we all working towards the same agenda, you know, the same agenda. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what you just said too, it's just this expression of when we talk about complex ideas, because there's very complex ideas happening at the global stage. But again, the role of the communicator is to act as the teacher. You have to filter these complex ideas and make them very simple to understand by people of, for example, all backgrounds and all ages.
Yes.
So just like in communications, they also say often, like, you need to, like, you know, use very simple language, or like, how would you say this to a 12-year-old or to your grandmother? You know, maybe a very complex idea that you need to kind of boil it down to the essentials and communicate it. And how do you usually communicate it? It's like going back to our shared values and ideals. Like, this is the shared humanity. This is how you can engage with people from different backgrounds, different ages, different cultures, everything. So this is the role of the communicator within the UN's stage, but also I think like any communicator. And it's basically, here we go, the teacher. Like, we are in a way teachers, right? We forget that we are. We just talk about communicating, but we are the teachers.
We are the teachers. Awesome. You know, I like that. I like that you said the UN, and I think this is a great platform that allowed to educate persons who were thinking like myself that the UN could enforce. That's what you're there for, UN. You are the mega, you know, the whatever. You're supposed to make the final decision. This is what you do. Not realizing that the UN is actually creating a space for us to recognize our shared humanity and to be open and to hear. That, you know, that's like sitting in therapy. they're like, hey, come in, and we're here to listen to you. We are here to make sure everybody gets heard, nobody gets left out, and you leave here a better person. You leave here actually listening, having the heart-centered approach, and recognizing that it's not about you. That is my takeaway, besides the yes and the yes but. That is one of my takeaways, because I never knew. I thought the UN should have been doing something just like everybody else. What is the, you know, the UN? But now I know, and I am more appreciative of the UN and all the other agencies that are, you know, following the same type of approach, to be able to create a space. And I think more of that needs to be done in workplaces, in families, in relationships, everywhere. Create a space. If we want to replicate, like what you mentioned, what the UN is doing at the smaller levels, create a space that allows for just listening, active listening, and engaging, and putting aside your own thoughts. Any final words before we go, Carla?
Yeah, that a better world that we all want through our shared humanity really does start with us, who we raise, our children, how we interact with others, and who we vote into power. So let's keep that in mind too, to make sure that we give our future grandchildren the best opportunity possible in this world.
Awesome. Carla, this has been oh my God, I love this discussion. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing.
Having me.
I'm just upset with you that you have former UN communications expert, because not because you break you are former anything. Let me just say that. So you need to remove that former thing. And just have UN.
It's an official thing. Like, I am on a bit of a break now. As of 1 week ago, I'm on a bit of a career break, working on my book. So just for now, as I introduce myself publicly, it's just former. But who knows? Maybe I'll be back within.
You will be back. I don't know anything about former. And before we go, as you mentioned, tell us about your book and when can we expect it?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm working on a book, a fiction based on my experience in the field with the UN. So it should have a lot of, let's say, comical instances. We did it in the last few years. Me and my colleagues have been through a lot of ups and downs, and I was hoping to find like a comical way to convey that in fiction. For all of the world to enjoy. So again, to find a way to communicate it, not beyond, right? Like, this is the UN world, but I would like everybody to be able to enjoy a little bit of that too, to have that insight from somebody who's been in there, and to also find it funny, heartwarming, and maybe learn a thing or two.
That's nice. People always think everything is all stiff and, as you say, tense. It's good to have the lighter side of working in the UN. That is awesome. I look forward to that. When can we expect to see that?
I would say within the next year. So I'm still finishing it up, the draft, and then we need to work with the publisher for the next steps.
Awesome. Congratulations. Let me say congratulations to you ahead of time, because I know it's going to be an awesome book. And when I see you and talk to you again, that former needs to go. I don't know about no former UN communications. You are the UN communications. Carla, thank you so much for being on Between the Lines.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.